The moment Meghan Markle's car pulled up to the red carpet, cameras swiveled in her direction like magnets drawn to metal. A line of reporters instinctively straightened, pins poised, microphones ready. This was supposed to be a standard celebrity arrival, but something in the air hinted that tonight would not be standard. The flashing lights, the cacophony of clicks and shuffles, and the hum of whispered commentary all merged into a singular, electric tension. Meghan stepped out with the poise she had mastered over years of public scrutiny. Every movement was calculated, deliberate, a testament to her experience navigating the relentless gaze of photographers, the unspoken rules of red carpet protocol, and the hidden politics of Hollywood circles. Yet, even with all the preparation, there was an undercurrent of unease. Something felt off. Security personnel near the entrance exchanged quick, furtive glances. Their expressions were polite, but unusually firm. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, you cannot enter," said the lead officer, his tone careful yet undeniably final. The words struck like a lightning bolt. Meghan's smile faltered for the briefest fraction of a second. Cameras captured it all: the pause, the slight widening of her eyes, the subtle tightening of her jaw. Observers instinctively leaned in, sensing that this was no ordinary red carpet moment. What could have prompted this unprecedented denial? The question hung in the air, electric, almost tangible. Her team, positioned strategically behind her, reacted immediately. Stylists adjusted her dress, hair, and accessories, attempting to maintain the illusion of calm. But the whispered urgency in their voices betrayed the tension. Phones rang in frantic bursts. Messages were sent with a speed that mirrored the adrenaline pulsing through the air. Every second counted. In Hollywood, seconds could define careers. Yet, Meghan had faced scrutiny before. From royal engagements to Hollywood premieres, she had navigated the complex interplay of image, expectation, and power. But nothing in her experience had prepared her for a public denial at one of the most prestigious events in entertainment. The Emmys were a pinnacle of recognition, a stage where influence, visibility, and perception converged. Being denied entry was more than an embarrassment. It was a symbolic blow, a message broadcast without words. For the onlookers, the moment was surreal. Some assumed it was a mix-up, an innocent error in guest management. Others whispered about rivalries, professional politics, or even deliberate sabotage. Cameras continued to flash, capturing every reaction, every hesitation. The crowd's collective breath seemed to pause, hanging on the edge of revelation. The lead officer's explanation, when it came, was brief, cryptic, and tantalizing. "It's an internal decision," he said, leaving everyone, including Meghan, grappling with its ambiguity. Internal decision by whom? On what grounds? The lack of clarity only heightened the tension. Fans and media would speculate endlessly. Hollywood insiders would analyze motives. And Meghan? She had to act quickly, strategically, and decisively. While the immediate reaction was shock and disbelief, Meghan's mind raced through the possibilities. Could this be a procedural error? A security miscommunication? Or was it something more deliberate? A maneuver by someone with influence over the event, someone with a vested interest in her public image being undermined? Every angle had consequences. Every move could escalate or de-escalate the situation. She glanced around. The red carpet stretched endlessly, lined with stars, photographers, and onlookers, all waiting to witness the next high-profile arrival. Celebrities continued their walk, smiles undeterred, some glancing at Meghan with curiosity, others with barely concealed amusement. The contrast between her sudden obstruction and the uninterrupted flow of others amplified the tension, the drama, the humiliation. This was not just about a night out in Hollywood. It was a collision of worlds, the residual aura of royalty, the ruthless glare of Hollywood, the media's insatiable appetite for spectacle. Meghan's presence had always commanded attention, but tonight, that attention was tinged with scrutiny, speculation, and judgment. Every gesture, every expression, every word, or lack thereof, would be dissected. In the midst of the turmoil, Meghan's composure returned, trained over years of facing public and private trials. She had weathered the media storm, survived hostile commentary, and emerged from personal crises with her image carefully curated. Tonight would require that same measured resilience, but at a scale unprecedented. The denial was public, visual, and instantaneous. The world was watching in real time, and the narrative was already forming. Questions burned through her mind. Should she insist on entry? Retreat gracefully? Make a statement? Every option carried risk. Every choice would influence public perception, potentially redefine her Hollywood standing, and alter the trajectory of her personal and professional narrative. In moments like these, precision was paramount. One wrong move could amplify the humiliation. One calculated action could turn the tide entirely. Her team whispered strategies, rapid-fire possibilities. Legal counsel, PR advisors, and personal assistants offered advice, their voices overlapping in a chorus of urgency. But Meghan knew that ultimately, she had to be the architect of her response. In high-stakes situations, agency mattered more than counsel. Control over perception, over narrative, over the unfolding drama. These were her tools. And tonight, she would wield them carefully. Outside the immediate chaos, the cameras continued their relentless documentation. Flash after flash immortalized every micro-expression, every gesture, every subtle movement. Social media feeds exploded with speculation. Clips of the interaction, slow-motion replays, and screenshots were shared with comments ranging from disbelief to judgment. Fans and critics alike weighed in, constructing theories, alliances, and critiques from mere seconds of footage. The event had shifted from celebration to spectacle, and Meghan was at its epicenter. Even within the event's organizational hierarchy, confusion reigned. Producers and coordinators exchanged urgent messages, attempting to understand the breach, the decision, the reasoning behind such an unprecedented act. The Emmy Awards, a symbol of industry prestige and professional acknowledgement, had inadvertently, or perhaps deliberately, created a media frenzy centered around one woman's denied entry. For Meghan, the situation was not just personal, it was emblematic of broader dynamics. Hollywood, like royalty, thrived on perception, control, and narrative. To be excluded in such a public, high-stakes arena was to be challenged, to be questioned, to be positioned as an outsider. And while exclusion might have been intended to diminish her influence or reputation, Meghan's experience in navigating scrutiny provided her with a unique advantage. She could turn scrutiny into leverage, exclusion into strategy. The intensity of the moment crystallized when a celebrity acquaintance passed by, offering a brief, sympathetic glance. Some onlookers nodded in recognition, their gestures hinting at unspoken acknowledgement of the unusual circumstances. And yet, the broader public remained oblivious to the intricacies, the history, the backstage politics that had led to this moment. In the following minutes, a flurry of activity unfolded. PR representatives crafted statements for immediate release, lawyers reviewed event policies, and social media strategists drafted posts designed to preempt speculation. Meghan, however, focused inward. Each decision, each reaction, would ripple outward. This was more than a red carpet denial. It was a moment that could redefine her narrative, influence public perception, and impact her trajectory in Hollywood and beyond. Questions continued to mount. Was this a simple clerical error, or a calculated move by someone with influence? Could it be tied to past controversies, professional rivalries, or even subtle attempts to undermine her presence in Hollywood? And most importantly, how would she respond to ensure that the story reflected her strength, her agency, and her mastery over the unfolding drama? The tension was palpable. Photographers hovered, flashes fired, and the murmurs of the crowd created a low hum of speculation. Meghan's gaze remained steady, her demeanor composed, yet beneath the calm exterior, determination burned. She would not be reduced to a footnote, a side story, or a subject of ridicule. This was her moment to define, to control, to turn potential embarrassment into an opportunity for assertive presence. And then came the subtle signal that would change the dynamics entirely. A text message from a trusted insider, hinting that the denial was not an accident. Someone with influence, someone with a motive, had orchestrated the exclusion. The revelation reframed the entire scenario. This was no ordinary miscommunication. It was a deliberate, calculated act, designed to provoke, to test, to challenge. Meghan's eyes narrowed slightly. The flash of fury was controlled, yet unmistakable. The cameras captured the shift, the subtle intensity, the readiness to act. And in that moment, she knew that the night had only just begun, that the unfolding drama would demand every ounce of strategy, every ounce of composure, and every ounce of resolve she could muster. But what came next would change the course of the evening, and no one could have anticipated the magnitude of the revelations that would follow. It all started with a flash of red. Not the red of a glamorous dress, not the red of flashing cameras, but the kind of red that signals danger, the color that screams, something is very, very wrong. Meghan Markle's limousine rolled up to the 2025 Emmy Awards red carpet, and for a brief, heart-stopping moment, it seemed like any other high-profile celebrity arrival. Cameras clicked, flashes popped, and whispers rippled through the crowd. But what happened next would shock Hollywood, stun fans worldwide, and ignite a media frenzy that no one could have predicted. Imagine stepping out in a couture gown, heels perfectly in place, hair polished, makeup flawless, expecting the admiration, the flashes, the cheers, and instead, being told, in no uncertain terms, that you are not welcome. That's exactly what happened to Meghan Markle that night. The words hit her like a physical blow. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, you cannot enter." Just like that. No explanation. No softening. No whisper of misunderstanding. A public rejection. On the red carpet. At the Emmy Awards. The scene was surreal. Photographers froze, unsure whether to snap the photo or look away in disbelief. Reporters whispered urgently into microphones, their curiosity immediate and electric. A crowd of onlookers had gathered, all sensing that something monumental was unfolding. Some assumed it was a simple clerical error, a forgotten name on a list, an oversight. But others, those who knew the tangled web of Hollywood politics, knew this was something much deeper, much darker. Why would Meghan Markle, a global figure whose every move is watched and analyzed, be denied entry to one of the most prestigious events in entertainment? Was this about past controversies, old rivalries, or carefully orchestrated sabotage? Or was it a signal, a deliberate message aimed not just at Meghan, but at everyone watching? Her team reacted immediately. Stylists adjusted her dress, whispering hurriedly to one another. Security personnel checked their earpieces, scanning for miscommunication. PR advisors began drafting statements. But Meghan remained still, her face composed, though her mind raced through possibilities faster than anyone else in the vicinity could even comprehend. In moments like this, experience and poise become weapons, shields against chaos. And Meghan had plenty of both. To the casual observer, the denial might have seemed like a minor hiccup, an embarrassing moment to be quickly forgotten. But for someone who had spent years under relentless media scrutiny, navigating the complex interplay between royal duties, public perception, and Hollywood expectations, this was more than a simple rebuff. It was a test of composure, resilience, and strategy. And Meghan, as always, was ready to respond. What's remarkable is how quickly the narrative began to form. Social media exploded within seconds. Clips of the encounter were uploaded almost in real time. Fans speculated, journalists analyzed, and influencers added their commentary, some supportive, some critical, all amplifying the event into something larger than life. Every micro-expression was scrutinized. Every pause, every tilt of the head, every tightening of the jaw became evidence, fodder for debate. The world was watching and forming opinions. But before the cameras, the flashes, and the whispers, there was a deeper tension, one invisible to the crowd yet electric in its intensity. Meghan knew that being denied entry in public was not a mere inconvenience. It was a challenge to her authority, her influence, and her very presence. To be stopped in her tracks on the red carpet was to have her image manipulated before the world, to be painted as an outsider, an unwelcome interloper in a world she had long navigated with skill and poise. As she stood there, the murmurs swirling around her like a storm, Meghan's mind flickered back to the years that had prepared her for such moments. The relentless scrutiny from the press, the whisper campaigns, the subtle digs in interviews, the staged controversies, these were all training grounds. Yet nothing could fully prepare her for the raw, immediate impact of being publicly denied at a moment meant for celebration. The humiliation, the surprise, and the intrigue all converged into a singular, potent mix. The security officer's words had been simple, clinical even, yet they carried the weight of an unspoken judgment. It's an internal decision. Internal? Whose decision? What criteria had been applied? The ambiguity was maddening, leaving Meghan, and everyone watching, grappling with uncertainty. And it was this very uncertainty that made the situation combustible, ripe for speculation and controversy. While Meghan's team worked furiously behind the scenes to manage the immediate fallout, she maintained her composure outwardly. Each gesture, each expression, each measured movement was a calculated response, a dance of control amidst chaos. For Meghan, control over narrative, perception, and timing had always been paramount. And tonight, control was everything. Yet, even as she exuded calm, the situation was anything but ordinary. The Emmys had never publicly barred someone of Meghan's profile at the red carpet. This was unprecedented. Hollywood insiders would whisper for months, journalists would dissect every frame of footage, and the world at large would speculate endlessly. To be denied in this manner was to be placed at the center of a narrative not of your making, but to navigate it successfully could redefine that narrative entirely. Observers in the crowd reacted in real time. Some looked on in shock, unable to comprehend the sudden disruption. Others whispered theories, ranging from procedural mishaps to deliberate interference. And then there were the few who knew exactly how rare such a moment was. A carefully orchestrated red carpet snub, designed to provoke attention, generate headlines, and perhaps unsettle the star herself. Meghan's response was a masterclass in controlled intensity. Every eye was on her, yet she managed to convey a calm readiness, a poised defiance, a subtle assertion that she was fully aware of the dynamics at play. This was not panic. This was strategy. The denial was public, but her reaction was a silent statement. She was in command, even when the situation seemed designed to strip her of it. Social media immediately became a battlefield. Clips of the moment were dissected, screenshots circulated, and commentary erupted. Fans defended her, detractors criticized, and casual observers debated. In this digital age, a single moment could become global news in seconds. The Emmy Awards red carpet, usually a stage for glamour and celebration, had transformed into a theater of power, influence, and perception. And Meghan Markle was at its epicenter. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, subtle signals suggested this was no simple oversight. Texts from trusted insiders hinted at internal politics, professional rivalries, and deliberate obstruction. This revelation reframed the situation entirely. The public denial was not accidental. It was a strategic maneuver, a test of influence, control, and poise. For Meghan, understanding the intent behind the exclusion was critical. Every move she made now had consequences far beyond the red carpet. As the minutes passed, Meghan weighed her options. To insist on entry might escalate the situation, drawing negative attention or reinforcing narratives she could not control. To retreat gracefully would require finesse, signaling resilience without surrender. Every choice carried risk. Every reaction could be weaponized, misinterpreted, or celebrated. The stakes were enormous, and the eyes of the world were upon her. And then, just as the tension reached its peak, a subtle signal arrived. A discreet whisper, a brief exchange, a hint that those responsible for the denial had underestimated her. It was a moment of revelation, a pivot point that would shape the events of the night. Meghan's gaze shifted, determination flaring beneath her composed exterior. This was no longer simply about the red carpet. This was about narrative control, reputation, and power, and she was ready to reclaim it. From the moment Meghan stepped out of the limousine, the tension was palpable. Cameras swiveled, flashes ignited like lightning across the night sky, and murmurs rippled through the crowd. But nothing could prepare anyone for what would happen next. One of Hollywood's most glamorous, most watched events, the Emmy Awards, was about to witness something unprecedented. Meghan Markle, a figure whose every step is dissected, analyzed, and magnified, was about to be publicly denied entry. Think about it. You've spent weeks preparing for a moment meant to showcase elegance, prestige, and influence. Every detail of your appearance, every stride down the carpet, every smile calibrated for the cameras. And in one fell swoop, all of that is threatened, not by critics or media commentary, but by a simple, cold, unyielding decision at the security checkpoint. "I'm sorry, you cannot enter." The words hung in the air, heavier than any spotlight, more cutting than any critique. For a figure like Meghan, who has navigated relentless public scrutiny, this was more than an inconvenience. This was a calculated humiliation. Every eye turned, every whisper magnified, and every camera caught a moment that could be replayed endlessly. How could it have come to this? Who had the authority to make such a call? And, most importantly, why? The Emmys are usually a celebration, a place where talent is recognized, where stars mingle, and where moments of glamour are immortalized in photos and headlines. But that night, the red carpet became a battleground. Meghan, the poised and graceful Duchess-turned-Hollywood figure, found herself halted at the threshold. Security personnel, professional and impassive, refused to let her pass. The Emmys are usually a celebration, a place where talent is recognized, where stars mingle, and where moments of glamour are immortalized in photos and headlines. But that night, the red carpet became a battleground. Meghan, the poised and graceful Duchess-turned-Hollywood figure, found herself halted at the threshold. Security personnel, professional and impassive, refused to let her pass. Their reasoning? It's an internal decision. Internal. A vague explanation that triggered countless questions and speculations in the blink of an eye. Meanwhile, onlookers whispered, confused and curious. Journalists leaned forward, trying to catch every subtle motion, every micro-expression. Flashbulbs popped furiously, capturing what would soon become viral footage. Fans held their breath. Detractors smirked. And Meghan, ever aware of the power of perception, maintained her composure, though the wheels of strategy were already turning in her mind. Inside that controlled exterior, Meghan's mind raced. She knew the optics of this moment were crucial. To panic, to lash out, to display frustration would only feed the narrative that Hollywood, or perhaps even the world, was trying to craft. Her reaction would either affirm or dismantle the story that others were beginning to write for her. And in the realm of celebrity, perception is everything. But there was more than optics at play. There were deeper forces, subtle currents of politics, influence, and reputation management swirling beneath the surface. To be denied entry in such a public setting was not merely a logistical oversight. It was a power move. Someone had decided that Meghan Markle's presence was inconvenient, unwelcome, or perhaps even threatening to the narrative they wanted to control. And understanding the motivation behind that decision was critical. As Meghan adjusted her posture, her eyes scanning the crowd, she noticed the ripple of reactions. Some onlookers appeared genuinely shocked, some excited, others curious, and a few, subtly, almost vindictive. Cameras captured every detail, the tightening of her jaw, the subtle shift in her shoulders, the poised exhale. Every movement told a story. And in those moments, the red carpet was no longer a mere entrance. It was a stage, a chessboard, and a battlefield all at once. Security, seemingly oblivious to the global stage they had stepped onto, stood firm. They had their orders, their protocols, their internal instructions. But those instructions were not merely about event management. They carried a message. Denial, after all, is a statement. It is a declaration of control. By stopping Meghan Markle, the powers behind the Emmys were asserting influence, demonstrating authority, and perhaps sending a message that would ripple far beyond the night's proceedings. The crowd reacted instantly on social media. Clips surfaced within seconds, hashtags began trending, and conversations erupted across platforms. Fans rallied in defense. Commentators debated motives. Analysts speculated about who had orchestrated the denial and why. And as these discussions proliferated, Meghan remained the eye of the storm, a figure of grace amid chaos, composed yet undeniably affected by the public slight. It was then that whispers from inside the venue hinted at something more complex. There had been tension leading up to the event, rumors of rivalries, disagreements, and last-minute decisions about guest lists. Some suggested it was a simple oversight. Others claimed it was deliberate, a strategic move to unsettle her. The ambiguity added fuel to the fire. For Meghan, understanding the underlying intent was paramount. Every decision she made, every subtle gesture, Every interaction would be scrutinized, analyzed, and interpreted on a global stage. Her team rallied discreetly. Advisors whispered into earpieces, stylists adjusted outfits, and PR consultants drafted immediate messaging strategies. But Meghan's response was her own, calculated, measured, and sharp. She understood that a public display of frustration could be weaponized, twisted, or misrepresented. Control over narrative was not optional, it was essential. Every step, every pause, every gaze had to reinforce strength, resilience, and strategy. The minutes stretched like hours as she navigated the tense scene. Media outlets pounced on the story, framing it with headlines ranging from Emmy security snubs Meghan Markle to Duchess denied. Public rebuff on red carpet. Social media was ablaze, with speculations, memes, and debates multiplying by the second. In this digital age, a single moment can define a narrative, and Meghan knew that the clock was ticking. Amid the chaos, subtle signals began to emerge. Sources hinted that the denial might have been orchestrated by individuals concerned with controlling narratives about Hollywood's most watched and analyzed figures. Some suggested that it was about influence, visibility, or even envy. Others speculated that it was connected to past controversies, rivalries, or strategic positioning within the entertainment industry. Whatever the reason, one fact remained undeniable. The moment was unprecedented, and its implications were enormous. And yet, in the face of this extraordinary situation, Meghan remained composed. Every measured step, every glance, every breath was part of a larger strategy. She understood that how she handled this moment could either define the narrative or allow others to define it for her. For someone constantly navigating public perception, this was a familiar yet high-stakes game. The crowd watched, the cameras clicked, and the world speculated. Meanwhile, Meghan's mind calculated. Who had orchestrated this? What was their motive? How would the public react? Every variable mattered. Every action had consequences far beyond the red carpet. The denial, initially perceived as a single event, was revealing layers of complexity, influence, and intent that few could fully grasp in real time. As she contemplated her next move, a subtle shift occurred. A quiet whisper from a trusted source suggested an opportunity, a chance to turn the situation to her advantage, to reclaim narrative control, and perhaps even expose the intentions behind the denial. But it would require patience, precision, and a keen understanding of the dynamics at play. And just as she prepared to act, an unexpected development occurred. A figure from her past appeared unexpectedly at the scene, someone whose presence would complicate everything, whose timing was impeccable, and whose involvement no one had anticipated. This individual's arrival introduced a variable that could change the entire course of events, heightening tension, stakes, and intrigue. The night was supposed to be a celebration. The Emmy Awards, one of the most glamorous events in Hollywood, a stage where stars shine brighter than ever, where gowns shimmer under thousands of flashing cameras, and where the world watches, waiting for those perfect, iconic moments. But for Meghan Markle, 2025 would mark an Emmy night unlike any she had experienced before. One that would challenge her poise, her strategy, and her control over the narrative she had spent years meticulously shaping. Picture it. The red carpet stretches endlessly, lined with the world's media, every celebrity making their carefully timed entrance, each step calculated for maximum visual impact. The air is thick with anticipation, a mixture of excitement, envy, and scrutiny. And then comes Meghan Markle. Graceful, poised, immaculate in her designer ensemble, her hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless, and a presence that can command a room without uttering a single word. But as she approaches the entrance, something unprecedented happens. Security personnel step forward, not to guide, not to welcome, not to accommodate, but to halt her. "I'm sorry, you cannot enter." Those words, cold and unwavering, cut through the buzz of cameras, murmurs, and applause. A hush falls over the immediate crowd. Whispers spread like wildfire. Eyes widen. Phones are raised. Flashes ignite, capturing a moment that will be dissected for days, weeks, months. Think about it for a second. Meghan Markle, a woman who has been dissected by the press, scrutinized by the public, and analyzed by millions around the globe, was now being denied entry to one of Hollywood's most visible stages. a stage she had every right to grace, a stage she had prepared meticulously for. And yet, she was stopped. Just like that. The initial shock is palpable. How could this happen? Why now? Who made this decision? Was it a mistake? A miscommunication? Or something more deliberate? The uncertainty alone sends ripples through everyone present. Fans, journalists, celebrities, and Meghan herself. Every eye is on her, every whisper amplified, every glance scrutinized. Inside, Meghan's mind races. She knows that in moments like these, perception is everything. One wrong move, one visible reaction, and the world will interpret it as weakness, anger, or entitlement. But Meghan is not new to high-stakes scrutiny. She knows the game. She knows how narratives are constructed and manipulated. She knows that her reaction here, on this red carpet, will be dissected frame by frame, headline by headline, tweet by tweet. And then there's the media. Oh, the media. Social media explodes instantly. Clips surface within seconds. Headlines are crafted, ready to trend. Hashtags start forming. Fans rally. Critics speculate. Commentators debate. Everyone wants to know the reason behind this shocking denial. The footage spreads faster than wildfire, fueling speculation. Emmy security snubs Meghan Markle. Public rebuff on red carpet. Meghan halted before entering. Each version spins its own narrative, and Meghan, as always, is at the center of it. The denial itself is perplexing. Security offers only a vague explanation. It's an internal decision. Internal. Ambiguous. A term that can mean anything, depending on who interprets it. Was it a scheduling issue? A problem with her credentials? Or was it something far more deliberate? A move orchestrated by those who control access to the event and the optics surrounding it? The vagueness only heightens the intrigue, the tension, and the drama. For Meghan, the implications are massive. Hollywood thrives on perception. Influence is currency. And being denied access, publicly and visibly, undermines authority, questions credibility, and fuels gossip. But Meghan is savvy. She has navigated stormy waters before, from tabloid wars to public controversies, and she understands that in every crisis, there is opportunity. Every public slight, every unexpected challenge can be leveraged, turned, and transformed. Meanwhile, on the red carpet, the crowd reacts. Cameras pivot, journalists lean forward, and whispers ripple across the onlookers. Some are genuinely shocked, some thrilled by the spectacle, others curious. Every flash of the camera immortalizes the moment. And while Meghan stands poised, calm, and composed, her mind is calculating. How will she navigate this? What is her next move? How can she reclaim control over this narrative that is already spiraling beyond her immediate influence? Backstage, her team mobilizes. Advisors whisper into earpieces, stylists adjust final details, PR consultants quickly draft messaging strategies, and every step is considered for optics, impact, and perception. But the challenge is not merely about handling denial. It is about controlling the story in real time. Because in the age of social media, a single image, a single gesture, a single tweet can define public opinion instantly. And for someone as high-profile as Meghan, the stakes could not be higher. Whispers from sources inside the venue suggest complexity behind the denial. Some claim it was a misunderstanding, a logistical error. Others hint at more intricate motives, rivalries, influence battles, or strategic moves designed to unsettle Meghan or manipulate her public image. Perhaps it was envy, perhaps caution, perhaps strategy. Whatever the reason, one fact is undeniable. The situation is unprecedented, and its consequences will extend far beyond the evening's event. The psychological tension builds. Meghan, aware of the global attention, must act with a combination of grace, strategy, and subtle defiance. Her reaction could turn a public humiliation into a display of control. Every breath, every pause, every glance becomes part of a calculated performance. Because in moments like these, the difference between empowerment and embarrassment can be measured in milliseconds, in micro-expressions, in how a story is framed and told. And then, as the minutes stretch, the narrative takes another twist. A figure from Meghan's past, someone whose involvement was unexpected and whose presence could complicate everything, appears at the scene. The timing is impeccable, the effect immediate, and the implications profound. The simple act of being denied entry is no longer a singular event. It has now intersected with personal history, strategic calculation, and potential exposure of deeper narratives. This individual's appearance introduces variables no one anticipated. Whispers circulate. Cameras pivot. Every action is scrutinized. And for Meghan, the challenge is twofold. Navigating the denial while contending with this unexpected factor, all under the relentless glare of public attention. The red carpet, once a stage for celebration, has become a testing ground for resilience, strategy, and public perception. As the seconds tick by, the tension escalates. The world watches. Social media explodes. Fans rally in support. Critics speculate. Every detail is dissected. And Meghan, poised yet calculating, stands at the intersection of public spectacle and private strategy. How will she respond? Will she confront, retreat, or maneuver in a way that reclaims the narrative entirely? But just as she begins to formulate her next steps, an unexpected twist occurs. Something so unprecedented that it threatens to upend everything she thought she understood about the night, the event, and the forces orchestrating her denial. It is a revelation that will change the course of the evening, a development that no one anticipated, and one that will send shockwaves through Hollywood and beyond. And as the cameras continue to flash, as whispers fill the air, as the world holds its breath, Meghan Markle stands poised on the edge of a moment that could redefine not just her evening, but her public story for years to come. The Emmy Awards, a night where glamour is currency, where flashing lights tell stories of power and influence, and where the world's eyes are locked on the most visible figures in Hollywood. Celebrities glide down the red carpet like stars themselves, draped in designer gowns, tailored suits, and an aura of untouchable prestige. But on this particular evening in 2025, one figure, Meghan Markle, would experience a shock so sudden, so unprecedented, that the entire red carpet scene would shift around her in an instant. It started, as most evenings do, with anticipation. The red carpet stretched endlessly, lined with journalists, photographers, and fans. The energy was electric. Reporters whispered to one another. Cameras were positioned to capture every perfect angle, and security personnel moved in precise synchrony, ensuring the orchestrated chaos remained under control. Stars arrived in sleek black cars, stepping out with that perfect combination of confidence and charm. Every outfit, every gesture, every smile was under the microscope. And then there was Meghan, dressed in a gown that had been carefully chosen for maximum impact, her hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless. She approached the entrance. Every step she took was watched. Every flash from a camera captured her in sharp focus. She had faced scrutiny before, public and unrelenting. But this night, the challenge was unlike any she had encountered. Before she could even step onto the red carpet, she was stopped. Security personnel, stoic, unyielding, and abrupt, moved forward. The words, simple yet devastating, cut through the murmurs of the crowd. "I'm sorry, you cannot enter." Shock, confusion, a momentary silence blanketed the area, punctuated only by the clicks of cameras and the faint murmurs of disbelief. In an instant, Meghan was at the center of an unfolding spectacle that would dominate headlines, social media feeds, and water cooler conversations for days to come. Imagine being in her position. You arrive prepared, polished, and ready to participate in one of Hollywood's most celebrated events. Your appearance is meant to convey poise, charm, and confidence. You have every right to be there. And yet, a seemingly arbitrary decision halts your entrance, leaving you exposed to public observation, speculation, and judgment. For Meghan, this was more than an inconvenience. It was a public statement, a questioning of status, of relevance, and of influence. Why was she being denied entry? Was it a simple mistake? Or was it a calculated move by those controlling access, a strategic effort to undermine, embarrass, or challenge her? Every second she spent at the threshold amplified the tension. The world was watching. Cameras continued to flash. Fans whispered in disbelief. And social media had already begun to churn, spreading images and clips that would go viral within minutes. Behind the scenes, Meghan's team scrambled. Stylists adjusted gowns. Advisors whispered urgently into earpieces. PR consultants began to formulate statements, knowing that in moments like this, timing is critical. Every word, every gesture, every decision could shape the public's perception. Every second of hesitation could be interpreted as uncertainty, weakness, or fear. Meanwhile, speculation ran rampant. Social media exploded. Hashtags began trending within minutes. Hashtag Emmy snub. Hashtag Meghan denied. Hashtag red carpet drama. Journalists debated motives. Fans expressed outrage. Critics questioned her entitlement. Every angle was examined, dissected, and spun into a narrative that few could have anticipated. And the denial itself? It was vague. Security cited internal decisions. Ambiguous. Open to interpretation. A term that could mean anything from scheduling errors to deliberate strategic moves. The lack of clarity only fueled curiosity, gossip, and, inevitably, controversy. It became a puzzle that everyone wanted to solve. For Meghan, the implications were profound. Hollywood operates on perception. Influence is measured in headlines, screen time, and social media impressions. Being denied access publicly, visibly, instantly, could undermine her credibility, her authority, and the carefully cultivated image she has spent years building. But Meghan is no stranger to scrutiny. She has faced tabloid wars, public controversies, and relentless media attention before. She understands that in every crisis lies opportunity. Every public slight can be transformed into a display of resilience, strategy, and control, if handled correctly. And on this night, she would need to employ every skill she possesses. As she stood there, paused by security, Meghan's mind worked rapidly. She knew that perception is everything. One wrong move could define the narrative for months, if not years. Every subtle gesture would be analyzed. Every expression would be interpreted. She had to maintain composure, project confidence, and navigate a situation that was spiraling in real time. Then, as if to complicate matters further, an unexpected figure appeared. A person from Meghan's past, someone whose presence could not have been predicted and whose influence could alter the dynamics of the night entirely. Their appearance added another layer to an already tense situation, transforming what might have been a simple denial into a complex, high-stakes encounter. The cameras captured it all. Every whisper, every glance, every subtle movement was immortalized in photos and video clips that would be dissected endlessly. Social media exploded with speculation. Analysts debated motives. Fans rallied. Critics questioned her reaction. The moment had transformed into a media spectacle of its own, a live event that no one could ignore. Every second stretched. Every decision became critical. Meghan's reaction could either reclaim control or further feed the narrative of exclusion and embarrassment. And while the world speculated, she had to think several steps ahead. How could she maneuver this scenario to her advantage? How could she turn denial into opportunity, public scrutiny into empowerment? The tension escalated further when whispers emerged about possible internal conflicts within the Emmy organizing committee. Some sources hinted at rivalries, strategic maneuvers, or calculated efforts to unsettle Meghan. Others suggested it was simply a logistical error, a mistake in credential verification. But in Hollywood, nothing is ever purely accidental. Every action, every decision, carries weight, intention, and consequence. As the minutes passed, the world watched. Cameras flashed. Social media buzzed. Every move was magnified. Every reaction scrutinized. Meghan's presence at the threshold of the red carpet became symbolic, a test of composure, resilience, and strategy. And then, the moment that no one anticipated, an unforeseen development that threatened to change everything about the evening. A revelation so sudden, so impactful, that it would send shockwaves through the media, fans, and celebrities alike. A twist that could redefine the narrative, alter public perception, and challenge Meghan's carefully curated image. The stage was set. The red carpet, once a realm of celebration and glamour, had transformed into a battleground of strategy, perception, and influence. Meghan stood poised, calculating, and ready. The world held its breath. Cameras continued to flash. Social media erupted, and the drama was only beginning. The Emmy Awards were supposed to be a night of celebration. Lights, cameras, laughter, the glittering gowns, the perfectly tailored tuxedos, all orchestrated for a single purpose: spectacle. Celebrities arrived in sleek black cars, stepping onto the red carpet with poise, confidence, and a carefully curated aura of perfection. Each step was observed, scrutinized, photographed. Every smile, every tilt of the head, every flash of the eyes could be dissected into headlines, memes, and viral clips. The world watched, and they watched to judge. And then, there was Meghan Markle, dressed in a gown that was the result of weeks of planning, her hair perfectly styled, makeup impeccable, every detail curated for maximum impact. She arrived with the expectation that she would glide down the red carpet like she always did, commanding attention, asserting presence, reinforcing influence. But this night would not be ordinary. It would be unprecedented. It would be humiliating. And it would be public. As Meghan approached the entrance, something unusual happened. Security personnel, positioned like sentinels along the velvet ropes, stepped forward. Their expressions were unreadable, but the message was unmistakable. Stop. One of them spoke, the words cutting through the hum of the red carpet like a knife. I'm sorry, you cannot enter. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. A hush fell over the immediate vicinity, broken only by the clicking of cameras and the murmurs of astonished onlookers. Meghan froze, processing the unexpected denial. The moment stretched, and in that stretch, every reporter, every fan, every passerby witnessed what could only be described as a live spectacle of exclusion. Imagine it for a second. You are prepared, polished, and poised. You arrive at an event you have every right to attend. You expect recognition, admiration, perhaps even applause. Instead, you are stopped, denied, uninvited, publicly. This is not a small mistake. This is not a logistical error that can be quietly corrected behind the scenes. This is a statement, and it was delivered in the most visible, most humiliating way possible. Behind the scenes, chaos erupted. Meghan's team scrambled. Stylists adjusted gowns. Advisors whispered urgently into earpieces. PR consultants began drafting statements even before the first words were spoken. Timing was critical. In moments like this, hesitation could be interpreted as uncertainty, fear, or weakness. Every second mattered. Every move could shape the narrative. Meanwhile, social media had already ignited. Within minutes, hashtags were trending. Hashtag Emmy snub. Hashtag Meghan denied. Hashtag red carpet drama. Fans voiced outrage. Critics voiced skepticism. And every corner of the internet debated motives. Some suggested a simple error. Others hinted at deeper, more strategic moves, an intentional slight, perhaps orchestrated by rivals or insiders who saw an opportunity to embarrass her. The lack of clarity only intensified the speculation. But Meghan is no stranger to scrutiny. She has weathered storms before, tabloid wars, public controversies, and relentless media attention. She understands that perception is everything. A single misstep can define you in the eyes of the public, while a calculated response can turn humiliation into triumph. On this night, she would need to be more strategic than ever. As Meghan lingered at the threshold, analyzing the situation, her mind raced. She considered every possibility. Was this a mistake? A deliberate message? An internal conflict within the Emmy organizing committee? Or something more personal, targeted, aimed to diminish her relevance? Every question fueled the tension, and every passing second intensified the stakes. Adding to the tension, unexpected figures began to appear. Individuals from her past, people whose presence she could neither predict nor control, emerged near the entrance. Their arrival added a layer of complexity to an already tense scenario. Every glance, every whisper, every movement could be scrutinized, interpreted, and spun into a story that might define the evening, and potentially, her image in Hollywood for months to come. The red carpet, once a place of glamour and celebration, had transformed into a stage for a different kind of performance. One where perception, strategy, and control were everything. Meghan's every gesture, her posture, the tilt of her chin, the way she held her gown. All were now signals in a high-stakes game of public relations, influence, and media manipulation. And the cameras did not miss a single moment. Photographers captured every expression, every subtle twitch, every flash of surprise or tension. Videos began circulating almost immediately, clips of Meghan standing, paused, poised yet denied. Social media amplified the moment, giving it life beyond the physical space of the red carpet. Memes, GIFs, and commentary appeared within minutes. Analysts debated motives, dissected body language, and speculated on strategy. The world watched, and the world had questions. Why was she denied entry? Was it personal? Political? Professional? Then came the whispers. Reports emerged about internal conflicts, rivalries within the organizing committee, possible behind-the-scenes disputes. Some claimed it was an intentional slight by people who felt threatened by her influence. Others suggested a simple error, a mistake in credential verification. But in Hollywood, mistakes are rarely simple, and errors are rarely accidental. Every action carries weight, and the public is always watching. Minutes passed, and tension escalated. The energy on the red carpet shifted. Conversations hushed, the chatter of the crowd muted under the intensity of the moment. Meghan remained composed, but her mind was calculating. She understood the stakes. She knew that how she responded could either reclaim control or further feed the narrative of exclusion and embarrassment. Then came the twist, an unexpected development that no one saw coming. Someone from inside the Emmy organization, someone with authority, approached, and their words hinted at a revelation that would shake not only Meghan but the entire event. It was a development that threatened to change everything, to redefine the evening, and to transform public perception in a matter of seconds. The flashbulbs continued. Social media erupted. Fans rallied, critics questioned, and journalists scrambled to interpret the situation. The world's gaze had shifted entirely. Meghan's presence, poised at the threshold of the red carpet, had become a symbol, a test of resilience, strategy, and control. Every second was amplified, every decision scrutinized, every subtle gesture dissected. And in that moment, Meghan faced a choice that could either salvage the night or cement it as one of the most dramatic red carpet events in recent memory. The moment Meghan Markle stepped out of her sleek black SUV, she expected applause. Cameras would flash. Fans would cheer. Every step down the red carpet at the 2025 Emmy Awards was supposed to be a testament to her influence, her fame, her carefully cultivated persona. But the night had other plans. Imagine preparing for months, every detail meticulously orchestrated. From the gown that hugged her figure perfectly, to the subtle shimmer of her earrings, down to the tiny fold of the clutch in her hand. You picture the photographers snapping away as you glide down the carpet. You anticipate the hushed murmurs of admiration, the whispered acknowledgement of your status. And then, the unimaginable happens. Security stops you. You cannot enter, one of the officers says, his tone calm but firm. For a split second, the world seems to tilt. The flashing cameras don't stop. If anything, they intensify, capturing every millisecond of disbelief, of hesitation, of internal calculation. Meghan freezes. The denial is not just procedural. It is personal, public, humiliating, and it's happening live, in front of an audience of millions. What could have caused this? Was it a clerical error? A credential mix-up? Or was someone behind this, deliberately orchestrating a slap at Meghan's status, a calculated move to remind her, and the world, that no matter her fame, no one is untouchable? While the flashbulbs pop and the murmurs grow, Meghan's mind races. She is no stranger to scrutiny. She has faced tabloid wars, been dissected by critics, mocked for choices she made in the past. She knows that perception can shape reality. One misstep, or one deliberate humiliation, can define a narrative for years. Every micro-expression, every movement, every breath she takes now could be the headline tomorrow. Around her, the atmosphere is tense. Stylists, assistants, PR managers, advisors, they swarm quietly, whispering, adjusting, advising, all while trying not to draw attention to the chaos. Meghan's own team is working in real time to assess the situation, weighing options, planning contingencies, anticipating reactions. Meanwhile, social media erupts. Hashtags trend within seconds. Hashtag Meghan denied, hashtag Emmy snub, hashtag red carpet drama. Fans express outrage. Critics speculate motives. Analysts dissect every second of footage, theorizing about internal feuds, hidden agendas, and celebrity politics. The digital universe doesn't wait, it accelerates. It amplifies. Every tweet, every post, Every comment becomes a fragment of a larger narrative that will shape public opinion, regardless of facts. The red carpet is no longer a space for glamour. It is a battlefield. Every gaze, every whisper, every subtle movement is scrutinized for intent and meaning. Meghan's body language becomes a subject of intense analysis. The tilt of her chin, the subtle narrowing of her eyes, the way her fingers graze the clutch. What was once a space for celebration has become a stage for strategy, for survival, for narrative control. And then, whispers begin. Inside information leaks, subtle hints of behind-the-scenes conflicts. Was there tension between Emmy organizers and Meghan's team? Could there be internal politics at play? Rumors swirl. Some claim personal vendettas, others professional jealousy. Each whisper adds layers of complexity, and as the cameras continue to flash, the audience senses that something larger, more calculated, is at work. Yet, Meghan's poise remains intact. She has weathered storms before. From intense public scrutiny to private betrayals, she knows how to maintain control when the world expects chaos. But this was different. The humiliation was immediate, visceral, in front of thousands of eyes on-site and millions watching online. The stakes were not just personal, they were emblematic. This moment was about influence, power, and perception. Minutes stretch. Time slows. Meghan's advisors continue to whisper, urging calm, caution, strategy. Every decision now carries enormous weight. A reaction too strong could reinforce the humiliation. Hesitation could be interpreted as weakness. A measured response could reclaim control. But how do you navigate an unprecedented moment like this? One that plays out live under the scrutiny of cameras, social media, and public expectation. And then the unexpected occurs. A figure emerges from the crowd, someone whose appearance could either escalate the situation or offer an opportunity. A whisper of recognition spreads among those nearby. The individual is not a celebrity, nor a reporter, but someone connected to the intricate backstage world of Hollywood events. Their presence adds a twist that no one could have anticipated, a development that promises to change the trajectory of the evening. The crowd leans in, sensing tension, sensing drama. The air is thick with anticipation, speculation, and uncertainty. Every observer feels it. Something is about to unfold, something that could either salvage the night or redefine it entirely. And as Meghan stands poised, calculating, strategizing, the cameras continue to flash, capturing every heartbeat, every micro-expression, every subtle indication of what is coming. Social media continues to buzz, spreading clips, commentary, and speculation to millions across the globe. Hashtags multiply. Opinions clash. The narrative is forming live, in real time, with each second feeding the story. In that charged moment, Meghan realizes the full magnitude of the situation. This is not merely about a denied entry. It is about power, influence, and the careful choreography of celebrity and control. The world is watching. The stakes are immense, and the next move will define not only the night, but potentially the perception of her public image for months, or even years, to come. It all started with a single moment that would ignite a firestorm the likes of which Hollywood had never seen. Meghan Markle, accustomed to glimmering lights, cameras, and the soft whispers of admiration, found herself suddenly, and shockingly, stopped in her tracks. At the 2025 Emmy Awards red carpet, where stars are celebrated and headlines are made, Meghan was denied entry. Just like that. Uninvited. Imagine preparing for months for one evening. Months spent selecting the perfect gown, coordinating every accessory, rehearsing the confident smile that would greet photographers, and mentally bracing yourself for the inevitable spotlight. And then, the very moment of anticipated glory collapses into humiliation. The velvet ropes no longer symbolized exclusivity and elegance. They became a barrier, an emblem of denial that everyone could witness. The flash of cameras was relentless, each click echoing like a judgment. Reporters and photographers, sensing a rare moment of real tension, angled for the perfect shot. Was it confusion in Meghan's expression? Was it indignation? Was it shock? Every micro-movement mattered, every shift in posture dissected in real time by millions who would later dissect her on social media. "You cannot enter," said the security officer, calm but absolute. Those 5 words carried a weight that no amount of experience or prior preparation could erase. Meghan paused, the words sinking in. Denial in public is a spectacle. It is a moment designed not just to embarrass, but to fracture reputation and influence. The irony was stark. A woman who had been scrutinized, criticized, and even attacked in tabloids around the globe was now confronted with a form of rejection that was impossible to ignore. The red carpet, typically a place of celebration and glamour, had transformed into a stage of conflict. Cameras continued to flash, capturing the moment from every conceivable angle, each image destined to circulate in online news feeds, social media platforms, and celebrity commentary channels. The world was watching, and in that instant, Meghan's poise was put to the ultimate test. Would she react? Would she argue? Or would she maintain the calm, polished demeanor that she had cultivated so meticulously over years of public life? Consider this. No matter how prepared one might be, a public denial has layers of psychological impact. There is the immediate sting of embarrassment, the worry about how it will be interpreted by the masses, and the strategic calculation of how to recover. Meghan's mind raced, analyzing every possible scenario. Was it an internal mix-up? A deliberate slight orchestrated by someone behind the scenes? Could this be part of a broader pattern of exclusion or antagonism aimed specifically at her? And yet, the absurdity of the situation was not lost on anyone present. Stylists fumbled with final adjustments, advisors whispered last-minute counsel, and assistants hovered, aware that any misstep could be captured forever. Even the crowd of celebrities and industry insiders seemed to pause, sensing the tension and the drama unfolding in real time. What was meant to be a glamorous entry had morphed into a tense tableau of suspense, uncertainty, and intrigue. The public reaction was instantaneous. Social media erupted. Fans expressed shock, outrage, and bewilderment. Critics seized the opportunity to analyze, speculate, and debate motives. Hashtags trending within moments included hashtag Meghan denied, hashtag Emmy snub, hashtag red carpet drama. Each post, comment, and meme became part of a sprawling narrative, a digital echo chamber amplifying the incident across platforms and borders. And yet, behind the cameras, in the quiet chaos of the red carpet's edge, there were murmurs, whispered speculations that added another layer of intrigue. Some suggested internal disputes between Emmy organizers and Meghan's PR team. Others hinted at jealousy, hidden vendettas, or personal grievances that had festered for years. Every whisper seemed plausible, feeding a growing narrative that this incident was no accident, but a carefully orchestrated statement. Meghan, however, remained the picture of controlled composure. She had weathered countless storms, media scrutiny, family controversies, tabloid exaggerations, and public opinion